Well, it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us on this independent off-tube studio commentary. The game at Craven Cottage has just kicked off. It is Fulham taking on Aston Villa. Two sides, both out of form really. Both sides trying to get back into some sort of form as we go into the second half of the season. But for Marco Silva's side, they need to try and pick up a little bit of home form. They haven't been too bad at home. They just the one home defeat in their last five, but also only 2 wins out of those last 5 games as well. Against an Aston Villa side, really have just tailed off a little bit in the last 6 weeks or so. But both sides are looking to try and get into some sort of a form this afternoon. We're hoping for a few goals. It's myself, Paul Szczerbakowicz and Luke Ashurst taking you through the action. Luke, do we have a favourite here on the home side, just slight favourites, or do you think Aston Villa potentially still would look to at this game and say they could win it?
It's really, really difficult. I think if you look at the form of the two sides, more to the fact that Fulham have only scored 6 goals in the last 5 games and Villa have conceded 7 in the last 5, it's difficult to really see. I think what could potentially make a big difference is the players to come off the bench. I mean, if you look at Villa's bench, you've got Diaby, Zaniolo, Rodgers, Digne, who can all come off and make an impact. And then you look at Fulham's bench, and you've got Iwobi coming back from AFCON, Bassi coming back from AFCON, and Traore not really been favoured by Marco Silva. So it's really, really difficult to see the difference between these two sides, and I think it'll be a really interesting tactical battle.
Well, here they come now with Aston Villa on the attack. Watkins is in, he tucks the ball into the back of the net. The flag does go up. Fulham were fairly confident there was an offside there. They all seemed to sort of stop play as Watkins went through. The flag went up fairly quickly. Lewis Smith making his Premier League debut is our main official for this afternoon. You'll see from this replay, yes, he's offside. Not by much. I actually thought it might have been a little bit more obvious than that, but he's sort of almost a body's width there, isn't he, Watkins offside?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things Ollie Watkins is so good at doing, is playing off of the last man and trying to drive towards that penalty area. He's going to get caught offside a few times a game, and that's just part and parcel with the way that he plays. He's just got to make sure that he keeps it to a minimum and doesn't allow the defenders to get comfortable.
Absolutely. It's one of those where Watkins will get caught offside a few times as a result of that, but say with his pace and how good he is in front of goal, he's always going to make those defenders nervous as Tim Ream brings the ball out for Fulham now, clips one over down the left-hand side, one for Chase, but it's cut out there by Cash, who wants to see that one out for a goal kick. In the end, he's forced to put a touch on it, and he's unable to avoid the corner, so Fulham will be happy with that. It's good work there from Antonee Robinson with a new haircut as well. Seems to have shaved most of his hair off as corner kick to Fulham now on the left-hand side, and it's going to be Andreas Pereira to try and whip this in. Very often he's looking for his fellow compatriot there in João Paulinho, and he's certainly one of the ones lurking inside the penalty area. First set piece of the game here in the 3rd minute, and it's whips in by Pereira towards the near post. It's a header, but it's not the best header in the end. I think it was Decordova-Reid that gets his head to that one, but it was always going over the bar. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, it's difficult for Fulham. I always feel like when I watch them, they seem like a bigger team, and then when it comes to set pieces, it's the likes of Decordova-Reid, one of the smaller players on the team, that seems to be the ones attacking the ball. So they've certainly got some players who can whip in some good set pieces, the likes of Willian and Kearney and Pereira as well. They just have to try and make the most of it against a Villa side who are very well coached, particularly defensively from set pieces.
Absolutely, yes. It's been been really positive as well to see the fact that an Unai Emery team, which is always more associated, I think, previously Emery with the fact that there is defensive organisation, that his side don't concede many goals, but just there's a lot more expansive play to the way that Villa play. They are trying to be that much more attack-minded, and they have got some really good players in terms of getting forward. Players like Leon Bailey, who's just got back into the team after having been out for some time. Jacob Ramsey now being preferred in this slightly more advanced role as well. Of course, we've mentioned Ollie Watkins, and just behind him, John McGinn, another player who previously was a sort of more of a defensive midfielder who now seems very comfortable as a number 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing that John McGinn's really appreciated from Unai Emery. He's had interviews in the past this season where he's talked about how big of an impact Emery's made, and he said the biggest impact is he's asked me what I want to do and where I want to play, and you can see he's so comfortable in the way he plays now.
He is, and so we'll just break off from that because Villa were on the attack. It was a ball whipped in from Alex Moreno, which is easily dealt with by Fulham initially, but Villa now have the ball back on the halfway line. Pau Torres rolling it here to Clement Lenglet. Over to Matt Cash, just inside the Villa half. Now over to Bailey on the right-hand side. Fulham trying to play as high up as they can, and it pays off as Pereira just nicks that ball off John McGinn. Now a chance here for Fulham to get forward as a pass goes down the left-hand side. Doesn't quite get through to Willian, and as Pereira tries to have a second go, he actually fouls Matt Cash. So it will be a free kick to Aston Villa. We have our first goal in the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and it won't surprise you to hear that it's at Turf Moor, where Arsenal have taken an early lead against Burnley. I did fear that it could be a long afternoon for Vincent Kompany's side, and it's certainly looking that way already inside the first 6 minutes. Here come Villa now down the right-hand side with Bailey taking on Robinson. Gets all the way to the byline, can't quite get across in, wants it back on his left foot. Robinson's doing his best to try and stop Leon Bailey, but here comes Bailey now just to trying to break into the penalty area. Willian is there as well just to try and help. There was an overlap from Cash, but Bailey just preferring to go back into midfield. Douglas Luiz now back towards Longley. Near the halfway line now, Pau Torres trying more of a direct pass towards the edge of the area. Bailey being marshalled there by João Paulinho, still holds on to the ball, tries to switch play. He gets charged down. Muniz then trying to flick it on here for Fulham, but Villa have it back straight away as Pau Torres heads it on to Jacob Ramsey. He wasn't quite able to control it, and now Castagna trying to clear his lines for Fulham. Deflects that off Jacob Ramsey. But already inside the first 6 minutes, we can probably see a little bit of a pattern of the game. It is going to be Villa trying to set the pace for most of the game, you would think. Yeah,
absolutely. They're also looking to try and get it wide relatively quickly as well. We've seen the likes of Leon Bailey and Jacob Ramsey get on the ball early on, but also as well Cash and Moreno trying to flurry forward as much as possible as well, and try and create those overloads on each side. So it's clear to see that they don't want the ball in the middle, where the likes of Paulinho and Kearney are very solid defensive players. They want it out wide, where the players that they pay the big money are going to make the most difference.
Absolutely, that's where they need to try and make the most damage going forward, as Tim Ream now just trots forward here with the ball for Fulham. Still inside his own half, now back towards João Paulinho. And from Fulham's perspective, they can see how flooded that midfield area is. They are going to have to try and navigate through that somehow, particularly with Villa playing a very high offside line. I mean, Fulham are just inside their half, just by the centre circle, and Villa were pretty much pressing towards the halfway line themselves, really trying to condense things in their half, as the long ball does eventually go through towards the Villa penalty area, and the visitors do win it back. Then Fulham trying to get forward again, and Castagna licking the ball off Alex Moreno, but doing so after a foul, says the referee. Chance now for Aston Villa just to slow things down. Moreno, yeah, he gets caught there by Castagna. I just think Castagna may have actually had a chance to nick that without committing the foul there.
Yeah, he did there. Moreno just could not get the ball out of his feet at all. That pass wasn't meant for him. It was meant for Longley at the back there. So it was relatively poor from Moreno and Castagna as well to foul him in the process. He could have got it far more easy.
Just slowly playing out from the back. There is a bit of pressing from Fulham, and Deckel very nearly able to profit from that. Pressure here on Alex Moreno, and eventually he's forced to fire a long ball back towards his own penalty area, but it does get a nick off Deckel. I think he got the final touch, so it does go out for a goal kick to Aston Villa. Unai Emery, always plenty of hand gestures, always trying to get some further information, some further instructions out to his players. Always think Craven Cottage isn't the biggest ground in the league, of course, but when you think of all the noise and how far away the players are, how much of that are the players actually hearing? It might just be for the manager's sake, just to get it off his chest almost.
Yeah, I think if it's directed at someone on the far side of the pitch, he'll probably be trying to get someone to get that message across. But you make a good point. It always seems really difficult for managers to get their point across. There's a chance here for Fulham to go for goal. Rodrigo Muniz with the strike, but it's comfortably in the wide in the end of Emi Martinez's goal. But yeah, it always amazes me how much Unai Emery is constantly trying to feed his players.
Yeah, it makes you wonder just how much of it they could take in. But that was a good bit of work from Fulham. They had a throw on the left-hand side, took it quickly, and then a speculative effort there from Muniz going wide in the end, as Villa now trying to get out of their own half down the right-hand side with Matt Cash. Just been stopped there by Willian, playing it back in towards Clement Longley. He looks up, thought about a long ball, but Fulham trying to replicate what Villa are doing, in so much that they're playing quite a high offside line themselves, just to make it a little bit more difficult for Villa to try anything on the diagonal. Cash now to Tielemans. He's actually been out of the team the last few games, getting a start this afternoon, the Belgian international. On the left-hand side, a bit more space here for Alex Moreno, just being closed down now by Deckel-Reid, and forced to go back towards Pau Torres. Himself has had a little bit of time-out injured. Jacob Ramsey now drops a little bit deeper and finds a bit of space, and finds Moreno as well as he heads towards the edge of the penalty area. There's plenty waiting in the box if he can get across in. Well marshalled though by Castagna, who's just gesturing to a teammate that he needs a bit more support on that right-hand side. The throw-on's taken quickly, so well held up there by Ramsey. Then across from Moreno is charged down, and I think eventually Villa have worked and they've managed to get themselves a corner.
Yeah, and it's nice patient play there from Aston Villa. Look, they recognise that they need to try and exploit the spaces when they can. that's why we've seen Jacob Ramsey dropping deep and picking up the ball, and we've seen that they are trying to get the ball out wide as quickly as possible. So it's a case of players dropping in deep into those little pockets and then spreading the ball out wide.
It's the set-piece specialist here for Villa, Douglas Luiz, to whip this one in from the left-hand side. It was like a hanging cross, which nearly attacked there at the edge of the 6-yard box. Fulham clear their lines, but only into midfield. Cash keeping it alive here for Villa. Back towards Douglas Luiz on the left-hand side. Now it's with John McGinn. Marshalled there by Andreas Pereira. It's with Cash again. Now McGinn. Still plenty of Villa bodies at the edge of the penalty area. They get a cross in. Douglas Luiz picks out Jacob Ramsey, who drops his shoulder, goes for goal himself, and he wanted to catch out Leno at that near post. Never really got enough accuracy on that. And I thought he might go for the sort of Coutinho effort into the top corner, but he tried to surprise the keeper, and then it was quite a long way away from goal. Yeah,
there's an awful lot of bodies between him and the far post. We went for the near post, but that angle was always going to be very difficult to try and reach, very difficult to try and get right when you're that far away from the near post. So it was a speculative effort, to say the least, from Jacob Ramsey, but I've been really impressed with the pockets of space that he's finding himself in, picking up the ball and moving it forward. In that sense, it's been really quite impressive stuff.
He has. I mean, I've to say, Villa certainly looking the more confident in these first 11 minutes. Fulham doing their best to try and get something going and attack now. A long ball played up towards Muniz. He just about kept it in play, didn't he? He did, and he wins his side a throw-on in the process. So he's done all right there as Rodrigo Muniz. It's taken him a little while just to bed down in the English league. Finally has been able to pick up some goals for Fulham. And of course, we made the point before kickoff as to what's happened to Armando Broja. He's not in the starting 11. He's not listed as certainly one of the official sort of injured players, unless he's picked up a sort of knock in the last day or two. You'd have thought he'd be somewhere around the match day squad, because Fulham need a forward and Broja needs to play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why they brought him in. I've never seen Armando Broja as a particularly prolific goal scorer. That big season he had at Southampton, he only scored about 11 or 12 goals, but it's certainly more than what other players have produced. I mean, I look at Rodrigo Muniz's goal-scoring record for Flamengo, where they signed him from. He scored 3 goals in 9 appearances in the league. Fulham the 2 seasons ago, he played 25 games, scored 5 goals. He's not a prolific goal-scorer, Rodrigo Muniz, and we know about Raul Jimenez's troubles to stay fit and find the back of the net. So I know that the striker market is thin, but they're really struggling for sort of prolific goal scorers. And the fact they found someone who's got serious Premier League experience in Armando Broja, and he's not even on the bench, it'd be interesting to see what the explanation is.
Absolutely. It does seem that he's maybe potentially just maybe not confident with him in getting into this Fulham team, because certainly you'd have thought he would have been somewhere around the match squad. Just reading a quick comment from Marco Silva that there's been some difficulties with getting Broja into the team. It's not really more specific than that, so potentially they're just trying to perhaps getting back to some sort of match fitness. Of course, he hasn't really had much game time for Chelsea, but 13 minutes in, unofficial independent off-tube shooter commentary, it is goalless. Villa making the better start, but Fulham just in the last minute or two starting to see a little bit more of the ball as they try and put a bit more pressure onto this Aston Villa side, although just as I say that, they've been forced a long way back into their own half now, with Issa Diop not under really any sort of pressure, just playing it square to Tim Ream. Just the 1 goal in the Premier League so far, that we mentioned. It is Burnley 0, Arsenal 1, and it was Martin Odegaard with the goal for the Gunners. Goalless in the other games. All Premier League games are available on our service, but here come Fulham now with a cross from the left-hand side. Antonee Robinson lifts that way too high. It's catching practice for Remy Martinez. He would have had about 10 or 15 of those in the warm-up before the game. Not too much work from there, and Robinson, he can do better from that sort of angle.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a player who I think is really quite underrated as a fullback in the Premier League. Not only is he really dangerous going forward, but his athleticism really lends itself to playing as a wing back, because he gets so back and defends really quite well. He never sacrifices his defensive duties for going forward, and I always find that really quite impressive. It tends to be, although unfortunately towards the end of the games, where he gets found a little bit lacking, but that comes with time. He's still a relatively young player in that sense. Sometimes that happens.
Well, it does, and you've got to see that with someone like Robinson, because he's been sort of thrown into the deep end, almost getting plenty of game time at Fulham, it has sort of benefited him in so much that he's now pretty much he does look like an established Premier League player, and certainly one of the ones that Marco Silva would put down first on his team sheet. So as far as this game is concerned, things have just slowed down for the past minute or so. Looking at Marco Silva there on the touchline, he frustrated with how Fulham's season has sort of gone in the last month or so. Just the one win in their last 5 games, but also just the one defeat. That was at home to Newcastle, I should say, in the FA Cup. 2-0 defeat there, but their last game was that 3-1 win against Bournemouth. They're away to Manchester United in their next game. So that certainly won't be an easy task, because as of the last few games, Erik ten Hag's side have certainly stepped up a little bit. As far as Aston Villa's next game, they're at home to Nottingham Forest next week before a trip to Luton Town. So just a brief stoppage in play there, but Fulham now trying to play out from the back with Issa Diop and Tim Ream. The Villa just dropped off a little bit. They were pressing a little bit higher in this game, but just in the last minute or so, maybe just because they've had such a bright start, they're just allowing Fulham a little bit of possession in their own half. But they'll feel fairly confident with the way this game has started so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those where they're a difficult side to play against, Villa, so you have to kind of just see yourself in and work out what's happening in terms of how they're going to approach the game and how they're going to look to try and move the ball forward. We've seen in the early stages they're looking to try and get the ball to the likes of Ramsey and Bailey in little half pockets and try and move the ball out wide that way, but they just have to try and adapt and do as best as they can.
Absolutely. It's just... goalless in all the other games right now across the league, apart from that one goal at Turf Moor. Just to remind you as well, the late kickoff this evening, a small matter of Manchester City against Chelsea. And of course, we saw in the early game today Liverpool having to just conserve some of their players in the second half with that final in mind. So it does make you wonder whether or not Chelsea may be trying to save a couple of their players, or maybe trying to take a couple of players off early, depending on what happens at the Etihad. But you imagine it's going to be a fairly long evening for Pochettino's side. Back here at Craven Cottage, it is Aston Villa in possession. McGinn and Tielemans just exchanging passes here in midfield. So for the time being, it's just a bit of a lull in the game. It looked as though Villa was certainly trying to take the game by the scruff of the neck in the first 10 minutes or so. Last few minutes things have just levelled off. Looking at the stats so far, it's pretty even. It's 49% for Fulham, 51% for Aston Villa, and they're not spoiling us in terms of anything happening in front of goal. It's no efforts on target so far after these first 18 minutes. We're back with Fulham goalkeeper Bernd Leno. Thought about playing it long, just rolls it out towards this. Not too many Villa players pressing high up the field there. Watkins, as always, trying to make a nuisance of himself. But that's just hearing an interesting conversation earlier today about how few touches someone like Erling Haaland has for Manchester City. But of course, they're all very significant touches. And you could say the same about Watkins. He doesn't track back very often, but he doesn't need to. His job is to be as high up the field, to be as dangerous as possible. Well,
yeah, he's not a particularly mazy runner, is he, Ollie Watkins? He just gets a hold of the ball, finds himself in nice spaces, and it's a very, very clinical finisher. But I'd maybe argue he does a little bit more than Erling Haaland in build-up, but he also probably needs to, in the basis that Aston Villa are a really cohesive team rather than having particularly standout creators and amazing passers in that sense.
Absolutely, yes. As Fulham just trying to get forward. A long ball over the top there. Rodrigo Muniz was chasing that one, but in the end it's just a little bit too quick for him. Martinez is out and makes a comfortable save. There does seem to be a real good organisation about this Villa side, although the last few minutes things have just sort of got into a bit of a stalemate here. Combination of Fulham just starting to step it up a little bit, at the same time Villa perhaps just dropping off after that really bright start. Haven't really been able to get Ollie Watkins into the game. Ironically, of course, he had the ball in the net inside the first 2 minutes of this match, but he was clearly offside as he went after that through ball. Now Paulinho not had too much involvement in this game. Of course, he's very nearly joined Bayern Munich twice now over the last couple of windows. But I think most people associated with Fulham know that he's likely to go in the summer now, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing is, well, with that contract that he signed in the summer, they are guaranteed a fair bit of money, and I think Fulham could probably do with that money. Look, João Palhinha is an excellent player, but he's also not going to be around forever. He has got you know, he is towards the latter stages of his career, particularly as a holding midfielder. So it's one of those where there's not much really that you can do. You take the money that you can get for him at the time where he's valued the most.
Absolutely, yes. And we're going to see a free kick here for Fulham on the right-hand side. Referee Lewis Smith just setting everything up here as the visitors not too happy with this decision. There's going to be a ball whipped in here from the right-hand side. Plenty of Fulham players arriving inside the penalty area. Aston Villa, not the tallest side. They've got a couple of big players in their team, but Longley and Torres, not the tallest defensive pairing. And as this ball is whipped in, it's into the back of the net, and Fulham take the lead on 21 minutes. But we've said that Fulham have just started to look a little bit more dangerous in these last few minutes, and now they have taken the lead just before the halfway mark of this first half. And certainly Unai Emery won't be pleased, because his side looked like they were the ones just starting to get into a little bit of an ascendancy, but Marco Silva on the other hand will be delighted, because his side have weathered that little bit of an early storm, and now they've taken the lead. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, I mentioned that with Aston Villa, you have to sort of work out how they're going to set up, how they're going to approach the game before you then overly commit to a game plan, and that's what Fulham have done really well. They've sat back for, say, 15 minutes or so, worked out what they're going to do, worked out how Villa are going to look to approach it, and then they've tried to step onto them in that way. They're quite an adaptive side in that sense of Fulham, and they've done really well to weather the opening storm.
They have, but now potentially a VAR spanner in the works here for Fulham. There's going to be a check to see potentially if somebody's leaned into an offside position, and it is an offside position. I've got to say, as VAR checks go, it's one of the quicker ones. It may well be that the VAR officials already had some inkling that there might be an offside in that goal, so after a very quick check, got a credit to the officials when they do that, and it has been given as an offside. So after all of that, we were 22 minutes in, and just as we say that, Willian's been caught in possession at the edge of his own penalty. Now it's Villa on the attack. A strike comes in, and Aston Villa have taken the lead. We were still getting replays of the offside goal for Fulham, and all of a sudden at the other end we go back to live pictures. The ball just drops at the edge of the area. I think Fulham must have had another player committed further forward, because suddenly there's all this space at the edge of the box, and it's that man, of course, Ollie Watkins with the goal.
Yeah, I mean, we said Fulham, I should say, have done so well at holding Villa out, working what they're going to do, and then trying to attack. You think they've done well, got themselves a goal, and it comes back to bite them. They've committed too many men forward. The throwing catches them out. Willian has had an absolute shocker, just getting absolutely out-muscled by Jacob Ramsey, and then into the back of the net. We said Watkins doesn't get too many touches. He finds himself in a great space and finishes, and that's exactly what he's done. Plays on the half-turn, finds the back of the net.
He does. I mean, as I say, Willian doesn't do particularly well with the throw-on, but it is, I mean, as I say, to use a rugby expression, it's a bit of a hospital pass he's got there, Willian, isn't it, at the edge of the box. There's a lot of pace on that throw. It's sort of cutting across Willian as well, so he's got to be really on his wits to even try and get anywhere near that. And Ollie Watkins, of course, with his West London neighbour connections, being a former Brentford man, I'm sure he's had a few choice words from Fulham fans since he's arrived at Craven Cottage, so he couldn't help himself but have a bit of a smirk in front of the home end. But Aston Villa, well, 2 minutes ago they were a goal down. VAR disallowed the goal for offside, and went back to live pictures. Fulham gave the ball away from a throw-on at the edge of their own box, and Ollie Watkins has capitalised. And we're over the halfway mark in this first half. Now 24 minutes nearly gone now at Craven Cottage. Fulham 0, Villa 1, and it will be Luke to take us through to half-time.
Thanks, Paul. As Diop now has the ball, just in possession, it'll now be really important this next 5 or 10 minutes or so that Fulham get themselves back into this game and keep themselves composed and work out how they're going to attempt to get themselves back level. As Robinson now plays the ball in, looking for Muniz at the near post. Cleared away well though by Longley. It falls to Willian. Nice play to get onto his left foot. Plays it back into the middle of the penalty area, but into the hands of Martinez, who will slow the game down and allow his side to get back into some decent possession. There's Marco Silva, just, it's hard to say if that's despair or frustration, but either way, it's not a happy look, is it?
No, as I say, if a picture, I mean, he doesn't look happy there, Marco Silva, but it's just how things go in football. Sometimes you score a goal, you think you've scored a goal, the goal's disallowed, and then at the other end your side conceded, and it's the manner in which they conceded. It was a throw on to Fulham after a long Villa clearance, went off at a little bit of an angle. There was no real reason for Fulham to lose the ball where they did, but they have done, and now they've got to try and face up to the fact that they're a goal down to a side who are very good at defending leads. Yeah,
absolutely. Here comes Moreno on the left-hand side, squared up by Cordova-Reid. Just goes back into Pau Torres. He then tries to quickly find Jacob Ramsey, who's in the process of dropping deeper, but can't find the young Englishman. And play will continue with Fulham now on the right-hand side, although Cordova-Reid, that's not a good idea to try and release the ball there, and it's given it away. McGinn now on the ball, looking to try and shift it forward. Nice play from him, looking to try and find Watkins. Under hit pass, Watkins slips, and the ball is given away to Tom Kearney. Watkins looks as though he's about to get back to his feet. Took him a moment just to get there. Maybe strained something in the process of falling over. Now Tim Ream has the ball, normally with the captain's armband, but with Tom Kearney on the field today. He loses those privileges as Palhinha sends the ball long. It's a raking ball on the right-hand side. It's a terrific ball looking for Castagna. Can the Belgian do anything with it? Knocks it back to Pereira. Pereira, sweeping ball in towards Rodrigo Muniz. And it's brilliantly defended by a combination of Cash and Longley. Really nice play from the two of them. Wonderful move on the right-hand side for Fulham. And so unfortunate they couldn't make the most of it.
Well, it's a great diagonal ball to pick out Castagna, and it's a great cross in from Castagna as well. Villa just about had enough people in the box to make it difficult enough for Muniz not to be able to get a good leap forward, but Fulham still have it here with Pereira.
Pereira looking to try and bring it forward. He's squared up, he goes for goal, and he does all that good work whipping the ball in initially, and then I think that's the frustration Fulham fans have with Pereira, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, he would know. I mean, in training, if he saw another teammate or if he was coaching a younger teammate, he would say, don't shoot from there. You've got no balance. You've got no sort of rhythm. You're just going to sky it over the bar. And Pereira does exactly that. We're getting another replay of that goal. It really is a bad throw there from Robinson on the left-hand side. Gives Willian virtually no chance to get on the end of it. It was almost like Robinson suddenly forgot what team he was playing, because that was pretty much like a throw to pick out Jacob Ramsey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Willian looks up at him straight away as he falls over. He's not even looking at where the ball's gone. He looks straight to Antonee Robinson as if to say, well, you know exactly what's going to happen. This is your own fault. I mean, you can't really say anything to Willian, really. Look, he could be a little bit stronger up against Jacob Ramsey, but, you know, it's a lot easier to attack that ball than it is to try and defend it. So it's a difficult one. I think a lot of credit, a lot of negative credit's got to go to Antonee Robinson, who typically I said earlier on I thought was quite underrated. He's done me absolutely no favours there, but nonetheless I'm sure he'll look to try and amend for that error and try and get himself up the other end of the pitch and trying to get Fulham level in this game. But as things stand, they are trailing by a 1-0 to Aston Villa, and it is the Unai Emery side in possession at the minute with Pau Torres. Shifts it onto the left-hand side for Alex Moreno. Back to his fellow Spaniard. He's got Emi Martinez short to give it to, and he does give it to him just outside the edge of his penalty area. Looking for some options in front. Just keeps hold of the ball as Muniz basically ends up standing next to me. Waited so long there, Emi Martinez, just waiting for Fulham to come onto them. And now they move it forward as Ramsey drops deep. Oh, terrible touch. Although he's won it back off of Palhinha. He's still going here as Jacob Ramsey. Lovely run from him. Moves it onto the right-hand side for Leon Bailey. He's got the run of Tielemans. Bailey goes on his own with his left foot. It's cannoned off the crossbar. What an effort that was from Leon Bailey. Wonderful move from both Ramsey and Bailey. And somehow they've not found themselves 2-0 up. That was a really good effort from Bailey. Really good strike.
Fantastic. It would have been one of the goals of the month if had it gone in, or maybe even the goal of the month, because he turns and it's just virtually no backlift as well. He gets so much whip, so much precision on the shot, just lacking a little bit. It clips the top of the bar, but with the power that he put on it, it really flew away from that crossbar as well. João Palhinha was down as Ramsey won the ball off him, but thankfully for Fulham, he's back up on his feet.
Yeah, he's playing with an awful lot of confidence, Leon Bailey, having signed that new long-term deal at Aston Villa, taking him at the club, keeping him at the club, I should say, until 2028. Castagna now has the ball on the right-hand side, moves it inside to Issa Diop. Then square to Tim Ream, now onto the left-hand side for Willian. That's not a nice touch. And he's forced all the way back to Tim Ream once again. Square to Issa Diop, and I think Villa are being really quite sensible here, not stepping up and trying to press the full-backs as high as Fulham are having to do so with Villa, because it's not allowing the space in behind, and there is space in behind here for Fulham, for Villa I should say, as Bailey now on his left foot, ball through from Tielemans, he goes down, doesn't appeal for a penalty, he knows he's slipped there, there's not much he can do there, the Jamaican international, but once again, like I said, Fulham are having to step up and it's creating space in behind for Villa.
It is, that's always going to be the problem with a side like Fulham. once they've conceded at home, they've got to try and push forward, and Villa have got the players that could take advantage of that. It's great work there from Bailey, but as good as it was that Ream was able to win the ball off him without giving away a foul, I think Bailey could have looked up to pass it a bit sooner. As a ball over to Willian, just a little bit too quick and out harmlessly for a Villa goal kick. Yeah,
and it's difficult because you know that Fulham have got some serious quality in this side, but sometimes you just don't see it too often, and that I think will be the frustration for Marco Silva and Fulham fans as well. You know, you got the likes of Willian and Pereira, and you know, Kearney, Polina. There's all sorts of players in this team who've had a real impact this season, and the season's gone by. But they sometimes don't show it, and we're half hour into this game and we really haven't seen it anywhere near enough. As the ball's been won back by Jacob Ramsey off of Issa Diop, and there's a chance to move it forward quickly as the French centre-back's out of position. It's Cash on the right hand side. He's got Bailey there with him, uses the Jamaican quick ball to the Polish international, whips the ball in looking for Watkins. It's slightly under hit and Fulham can just about deal with it, although Douglas Luiz heads it back in towards the penalty area, and Castagne is forced to kick it long and out for a throw-in on the Villa left hand side, but they're under the caution at the minute, Fulham.
They are, and you could see there was just a slight frustration, sort of like from away on the hand there of Marco Silva when Fulham lost that ball on the halfway line, because he can see that his side are really just really buckling under the pressure here from Villa at the moment. Fulham, I mean, we've hardly mentioned Tom Kearney or João Paulino. I always think that's a bad sign when your central midfielders can't even get into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. McGinn now on the ball, plays it to Douglas Luiz under a bit of pressure from his fellow Brazilian Andreas Pereira. Then goes inside the centre circle for Clement Longley. Out wide onto the right hand side for Bailey. Raking ball looking for Ollie Watkins in behind, but it's intercepted well by Issa Diop. Palinha loses out on the ball once again. Chance here for Douglas Luiz in behind. Oh, he shouldn't have passed it. He had the opportunity to shoot on his right foot. What a chance that was for the Brazilian, and he's made a complete hash of it. And now there's a chance for Fulham to come forward. Great feat from Deco Dover-Reid. Still going. Challenged well though by Moreno, and play breaks down. But what an opportunity that was as Andreas Pereira's gone down injured.
Well, Douglas Luiz, I mean, he always has a goal in him, and as I say, why is he not just hitting that when he's so close to it, already inside the penalty area? Could have looked to try and just really put his laces through that. I mean, the referee, he sort of ignored one foul, played advantage for another. I thought there was a body check on Rodrigo Muniz just as this attack was starting. Referee didn't even mention that. But then John McGinn does crash into the back of Andreas Pereira, who's still holding onto his lower back there. The referee allowed the advantage. Fulham 2 or 3 passes later lost the ball. Still a bit of a grey area for me exactly how long an advantage lasts in football, because you never really know exactly how long the referee decides in terms of when a team have actually had their advantage or not. But McGinn, the Villa captain, I'm not sure he can complain too much. It was a little bit too physical there on Andreas Pereira.
Yeah, he's the first man to go into the book today for referee Lewis Smith, of course, making his debut in the Premier League as a referee. As Andreas Pereira is back to his feet. It didn't look as bad as it maybe initially was feared for Andreas Pereira, as he's back running and it seems to be all okay, which is exactly what you want to see. Pau Torres now on the ball. He's got Moreno there with him. Instead, left-footed long ball over the top for Ollie Watkins, who brings it down ahead of Issa Diop. Good play from Ollie Watkins. He's gone down holding on to something. Play will continue though. The referee says no foul, although Alex Moreno has stopped the play. And Ollie Watkins looks in a fair bit of discomfort. He did so well to hold on to the ball there, and this doesn't look good for Villa fans at all.
No, it's a real grimace on the face of Ollie Watkins. Seems to be his right leg that's giving him the problem here. We'll just see from this replay as he's trying to turn Issa Diop. I actually thought he might have got knocked to the head there, but I think Diop might have just trodden on Watkins inadvertently there as Ollie Watkins is trying to turn him. He hits the deck, and we'll see here it's... Oh yes, it studs right on the edge of the ankle there from Ollie Watkins, just around the heel, isn't it? It's a very painful one.
Yeah, that is going to be very, very painful for Ollie Watkins. I suppose if there's one sort of channel light to it, is at least it wasn't sort of an impact injury from when he landed, so it's not the worst outcome in the world, but not a nice one from Issa Diop in the slightest, who looks... it's hard to tell with Issa Diop's face there. Is he absolutely shattered, or is he just a bit annoyed that they've lost the ball? Either way, he didn't look too best pleased in the slightest.
He was really trying to catch his breath there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was really quite worked up. Ollie Watkins just putting some pressure onto that right foot. Looks like he's going to be okay to play on then, you would think. But certainly they will certainly be hoping for. Looking at that Villa bench, They've got Chambers, Kessler, Hayden, Diaby, Rogers, Gauchi, Zaniolo, Irega, Bauer, Digne, and goalkeeper Olsen as well. So they've got a couple of attacking options, but in terms of like an out-and-out forward, you know, Watkins is their main man, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have got Morgan Rogers, who they did sign from Middlesbrough in January, who could potentially come on up top and replace, but the lack of John Duran really doesn't help them. And they're quite thin in terms of squad depth. I think that's why a lot of people questioned whether it was a true title charge that they were going to go on when they were in that amazing run of form. And I think that's kind of shown by the fact that Ollie Watkins is the now only fit starting number 9 in the Villa squad. There have only been 2 goals in the 3 o'clock games so far. First of which came at Turf Moor for Arsenal, thanks to Martin Ødegaard. And then, of course, the goal in this game from Ollie Watkins after 22 minutes, as the referee's just blown for, I believe, a free kick. I think one of the Fulham players was maybe a little bit too eager to try and win the ball back. Just having a word with John McGinn. The free kick has been taken quickly, given away though once again by Yuri Tielemans, and that's a nice play there from Tom Kearney to try and move the ball forward. Deckled over Reed, back to Castagna. He had the overlapping run of Kearney, and you can see the Scotsman had his arms out, asking why on earth he didn't play the pass to him, as Polina sends the ball to the left-hand side for Robinson. He'll then go back to Tim Ream, square to Polina inside the centre circle. Now onto the right-hand side for Issa Diop, the former West Ham and Toulouse man. And then deckled over Reed has just kicked it straight out of play for a throw-in on the left-hand side, and I think that's the last thing Marco Silva will be wanting to see.
Yeah, I think it's just that was unfortunate. Deckled over Reed just sort of playing off instinct that that's where Castagna's going to be, and suddenly Castagna's nowhere near that right-hand channel, so it's an easy giveaway there for Aston Villa. But for all the sort of disjointed attacks and the moves that haven't quite paid off for Fulham, they are only a goal down, and it's not as if Burton Enno's had a string of other saves to make, so Fulham are still very much in this game. Just need that little bit more confidence, and just need that little bit more time on the ball to actually try and attack Aston Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. A big goal in the Championship as Middlesbrough has scored a second goal away from home at Leicester. They lead the league leaders by 2-0, so a huge result potentially there in the Championship, as the ball is dinked over the top looking towards Leon Bailey, but it's dealt with well by the Fulham backline. The Jamaican still on his knees, but then does bounce back up to his feet, as now Antonee Robinson has a throw-in on the left-hand side. We've just seen the stats pop up there. Fulham have had more shots in this game, none of which though have been on target. Obviously he did score a goal, but it was ruled out for offside by VAR. Play continues on as Fulham try to send the ball through the middle of the park, but it's dealt with well by Pau Torres inside the centre circle. Plays it forward to Jacob Ramsey. Now Alex Moreno on the left-hand side. He'll then go back centrally to Pau Torres. Trying to bring the ball forward, uses John McGinn. And now Douglas Luiz on the left-hand side. Further wide now for Alex Moreno. Just looking for some options in front of him. Finds Jacob Ramsey, who cannot get the ball under control, and it will be a Fulham throw-in on the right-hand side. And while every Villa player I'd say is playing really quite well in this game, one player we've not seen an awful lot of is Yuri Tielemans.
No, again, it's interesting that Douglas Luiz, John McGinn, the two other sort of central midfield players here for Villa, they're getting into the game. Tielemans has just been a little bit anonymous, and as I say, he's not had too much of a run in the team in the last 5 or 6 games. Perhaps he was hoping that as Villa's form was starting to drop, Unai Emery brings him back into the team, and Villa's fortunes improve. But here come Fulham now with Willian. Yeah,
Willian spreads it onto the left-hand side for Antonee Robinson. Tries to play it first time to Tom Kearney inside the penalty area. Read well by Matty Cash, although the ball has fallen back to the American international. Does well to hold on to it and go back to Willian. Whips the ball in. It's towards the back post. Muniz is there waiting. And that's the first shot on target for Fulham, but it's straight into the hands and comfortably for Emi Martinez.
Well, Unai Emery would have been asking questions, because although Muniz does well to jump here, there are 2 Villa defenders around him. Really, there should have been perhaps a little bit more to stop him even getting that header away. But potentially just their presence was enough to make it that little bit more difficult for him to actually get that one on target, or to really test Emi Martinez. As you mentioned, it was an effort on target, but catching practice for the keeper.
Yeah, here come Villa now, though, with Leon Bailey. Nice ball over the top from here for Yuri Tielemans to find him. Leon Bailey inside the penalty area, look to try and find Jacob Ramsey, who'd come central, but it's well defended by Issa Diop. I tell you what, Antonee Robinson is really struggling to deal with Leon Bailey on that side.
He is. I mean, as far as left backs go, Robinson's probably one of the, I would say, probably in the top 5, top 6 in terms of the quickest in the league compared to others. Certainly, if we're going to put poor old Dan Burn at the other end of that list, but there on that occasion, he's not getting anywhere near Leon Bailey, and it's a corner kick now to Villa on the right-hand side. Yeah,
chance for them to test this Fulham backline once again. As the ball is swung in on the right-hand side. It's headed in towards Ollie Watkins, and it's at the back post, and it's headed in by Alex Moreno. Terrific header from Ollie Watkins to find him. I believe the offside flag's gone up, and I'm very interested to see. I thought he was stood next to a Fulham defender.
Well, who is? I mean, certainly. The initial cross comes in, and when this. Oh, I tell you what, he was stood in an offside position as the ball was swinging out. Fulham did their best to push a couple of players out towards the edge of the 6-yard box, and Moreno, who was there potentially trying to make himself a bit of a nuisance in front of the goalkeeper. Well, this is going to be checked by VAR, and for the time being, Lewis Smith isn't allowing play to resume. So we're going to have to wait for confirmation as to whether this is going to be a goal or not, but this is very, very close. And as I say, if it does end up being a second goal for Villa, then it really could be a very, very tough ask here for Fulham to come back. But we're going to see, finally going to get a replay. Well, this is, when Watkins heads this, I mean, is Tim Ream's foot just... I think Ream's playing him onside.
I think Alex Moreno is absolutely adamant he's onside here. Like, he is waving, he is so certain that he is onside here for this goal. I think they're just trying to check that they've got the right frame as to when Watkins heads the ball, because we still haven't had the lines. I mean, we could be here for a long VAR check.
We could be. I mean, VAR promised to be that little bit swifter with their offside checks, and we can see it's all being looked at now inside of the VAR room. But I think a goal has already been given. By the way, whilst we're waiting for a goal to be confirmed here, I can confirm that Arsenal have gone 2 up away at Burnley, as Bukayo Saka from the penalty spot has made it 2-0. And it looks to me as though the goal is going to be given here. I mean, looking at that replay again, I can't see any reason why. I think this is part of some request from either the Premier League or from TV companies not to paint these lines on too soon, just to leave a little bit of suspense for us TV viewers. But to me, I mean, you said it yourself, Alex Moreno was convinced right from the off that this should have been given as a goal. And now, after this long old check, I thought that the goal had been given. Now we can finally see the lines being drawn. And what part of Moreno's offside? I mean, it looks like, you know...
Hold on, what? How has that been given? Oh,
it's confusing. As I say, we see a lot of football and like to think that we can hold down a conversation on the subject, but that has confused both of us. To me, I thought Moreno was level, and even when they drew the lines, I still couldn't see what part of Alex Moreno's body was offside.
I think they've drawn the line from the wrong person, because...
Or have they just decided that Leon Bailey, who was sort of tangling with Ream, has he been involved in the move? Because he was offside potentially, but...
Well, that's what I thought. I think they've drawn the line from Leon Bailey, but the problem is it's come up on the big screen there at Craven Cottage that it was Alex Moreno that was offside. So either way, the goal's not been given and the game has to carry on. But it's a baffling one, to say the least, and I think Villa can probably feel quite aggrieved by that, to be honest.
Yes, I think so. I think that hopefully we'll see some more replays and get a bit more of an understanding of it. But that potentially might work as fuel here for Aston Villa to really go through. We've only got a couple of minutes now before half time, and Villa back in possession.
Yeah, it's certainly a warning sign for Fulham. Either way, is Emi Martinez now has the ball, looks to send it long over the top, looking for Ollie Watkins. He's battling away with Issa Diop. That looked like a handball. Play continues, although the referee's given a free kick against Ollie Watkins. So what looks to be a handball against Issa Diop has turned out to be quite fortunate for him.
Yes, I mean, Diop, well, I mean...
Oh, it's actually no, fair play, I'll hold my hands up. It was a handball against Ollie Watkins.
It was. I mean, he didn't know too much about it. It just sort of deflected and hit him on the arm. Yeah. But the referee spots that. And I've got to say, for a first half of his Premier League career so far, I think Lewis Smith has controlled the game fairly well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not seen any players get overly frustrated or angry. I mean, you see, Andreas Pereira gets frustrated every single game, and so far I've not seen too many complaints from him. And there's not much he can do if the VAR check a goal wrong, they check a goal wrong. That's anything he can do.
Particularly when it comes to an offside, the referee has literally no input in that. Nope. As a ball going out for a corner kick here, Villa probably could have done a little bit better with dealing with that ball played down the channel. But Pau Torres got quite a heavy touch on it, and it does go out for a corner. Meanwhile, we have a goal at Tottenham.
They do, and it's João Gomez who scored for Wolves. So it's Gary O'Neill's side who've taken the lead against Tottenham. So a big goal there. which potentially causes Tottenham an awful lot of issues. Good, a lot of help there as well for Aston Villa as they are battling away with Spurs to try and get inside the top four. Corner whipped in though in our game, and it's headed just wide of the post. It was Rodrigo Muniz once again who was able to get his head on the ball, the big Brazilian striker, and he just nodded it wide of the post. Unfortunate from him. Not brilliant defending, I have to say. I believe it was Jacob Ramsey who was left to try and deal with him, and indeed it was. Doesn't do very well at all, but nonetheless, it is out for a goal kick, and I mean, they can count themselves lucky there, Villa.
Yeah, I mean, he's at full stretch there, the goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, but he couldn't quite get a hand to it. It was just angling away from goal. But a good response there from Fulham after very nearly going 2 down. Yeah,
absolutely, but there's a chance here, though, for Villa as Watkins driving forward. There's an offside flag gone up, maybe? I'm not quite sure. It looks as though it has, yes.
It has to be an offside because it certainly wasn't a foul.
Yeah, definitely not, as play continues then with Fulham once again as we're ticking towards the end of the 45 minutes of this first half. We'll wait to see how much added on time is given. As Tim Ream now has the ball, we're going to have 7 minutes of added on time due to that lengthy VAR check, and of course a disallowed goal as well earlier on in the half for Fulham. So the ball's nodded forward and cleared away by Aston Villa as Cordova-Reid throws it to Joao Palhinha, and Cordova-Reid once again. Issa Diop goes square to Tim Ream inside the centre circle, then forward to Kearney. He's got the run over the top of Antonee Robinson, uses the American. Can he get there first? He does. Longley just knocks the ball up into the air. Willian does well to bring it down under pressure from Yuri Tielemans. Gets the 1-2 off of Tom Kearney. Still going here is Willian. Nice ball down the line looking for Antonee Robinson. Villa players appealing for offside. The linesman says no. Pereira looking to try and find Kearney inside the penalty area. Fulham want a penalty. I don't think they're going to get one.
No, I mean, Kearney's sort of reaction is as if to say, well, come on, ref, it's an obvious one, but... Well, no, for a start, he trips on John McGinn rather than McGinn tripping him, and I would argue that the first contact there potentially is even outside the box.
Yeah, so it's never really likely to be given there for Tom Kearney. The play continues with Aston Villa, although Fulham are stepping up and putting an awful lot of pressure on the Villa backline at the minute, as Pau Torres sends the ball along with his left foot looking for Watkins, dealt with well though by Diop. He's been very busy in this first half, and a long raking ball looking, I say, towards Leon Bailey. It wasn't really anywhere near the Jamaican, and Bernardo can easily get it under control and play it to the American international Tim Ream. It'll then just go back to Bernd Leno, and as I mentioned earlier, there is absolutely no pressure on the ball whatsoever from Aston Villa. They know that Fulham are going to have to try and create space in behind, and they're struggling to do so.
They are, and it's interesting that Fulham, despite sort of seeing that, they're not really able to do anything with it. There's a lot of passes on the halfway line before a long ball here from Andreas Pereira into, it was Bobby Cordova-Reid breaking into the box this time, but Villa will feel confident there. As long as Fulham are just playing it short on the halfway line before sending a long ball towards the box, Villa will feel confident they've got enough players in the right position to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely is. We've just seen a replay of that challenge from Pau Torres on Cordova-Reid, and credit has got to be given to Cordova-Reid. There was absolutely no appeals for a penalty at all, and
didn't stop Pau Torres from looking down at Cordova-Reid as if to say, "Don't you dare ask for a penalty there, just in case."
Absolutely, it's almost like in the NBA when you see players get blocked, they often get looked down upon, and that's exactly what Pau Torres has done there to Cordova-Reid. But credit to the Jamaican, he didn't complain at all, didn't ask for a penalty in the slightest, and it was a correct decision from the referee, as well as the ball sent forward looking for Cordova-Reid. Pereira wants a free kick, Reid does not, and therefore none was given. And then John McGinn has been fouled by Joao Palhinha, and now all of a sudden Lewis Smith does have Andreas Pereira complaining. It was a matter of time until the Brazilian got frustrated, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I mean, it's been a frustrating half for him overall, really, hasn't it? Not really been able to do too much in terms of testing this Villa defence. Unai Emery will be, he'll be happy that his side are in front. Obviously, he'll look back to that marginally offside goal that wasn't given. But overall, I think he'd say that Fulham really haven't done enough to test his side's defence, and he'll just be looking for his team to try and be that little bit more attack-minded in the second half to really kill the game off.
Absolutely. Here is John McGinn. Goes to Alex Moreno. And now Douglas Luiz, who's just dropped in deep to pick up the ball, as he so often does. Plays onto the right-hand side for Matty Cash. Bit of space for him to try and run into if he can get past Willian. Indeed, he does get past the Brazilian. He's knocked slightly off balance, though. And that's well played from Antonee Robinson to deny Cash any chance of trying to keep that ball in play. So it will be a goal kick for Bernd Leno to take. We're taking towards the 49th minute of the 52. that are to be played in this first half, as Tim Ream now has the ball, looking to try and bring it forward. And while Fulham will want to try and get a goal before half-time, I also don't think they're going to exhaust themselves too much to try and get themselves an equaliser before half-time, and maybe just try and go in and regroup. Either way, he's knocking it from side to side at the minute as it's half-time in 2 of the other 3 o'clock games. Newcastle have gone in at St James's Park against Bournemouth at 0-0, and Burnley trail Arsenal by 2-0 at Turf Moor. In this game it is still 1-0 to Aston Villa. Independent off studio commentary as the ball sent over the top, looking for Rodrigo Muniz. Villa get it cleared though. Pereira looking to try and bring it forward. That's a wicked ball in towards the penalty area, looking for Muniz, and it's a good job Mighty Cash got a touch on that, because that was a dangerous ball in from Pereira.
It was a great ball from Pereira. It's also a good job that despite that there was a good touch from Matt Cash, but he also needed a teammate there as well, because he effectively stopped the ball at the edge of his own 6-yard box and then left it for Longley. I think it was Longley in the end that dealt with that one, but it was an excellent ball in from Pereira. We've just not seen enough of that in this first half from him.
No, certainly not. He's just not really been able to get on the ball. That's a credit to mostly to be given to Douglas Luiz, to be honest. He shut him out very nicely. Tielemans sends the ball over the top looking for Leon Bailey, but that's overhit to say the least, and it will be a goal kick for Bernd Leno to take with 2 minutes left of this injury time at the end of the first half. As Kearney now has the ball, goes to Tim Ream. Got a few options in front of him, just holding on to it. Kearney pointing where he wants the ball to go. Instead he goes square to Issa Diop, who once again is asking for options in front of him, so just goes back to Bobby De Cordova-Reid, and then square to Tim Ream, looking for options in front of him. Goes to Willian inside the centre circle, looking for Kearney. Given away though, there's a chance here for Watkins to bring it forward. He's got Tielemans on the right hand side, uses him. Tielemans goes for goal, saved well by Bernd Leno and cleared away just about by Fulham. Although they've still got the ball here, Villa. Bailey goes for goal, and that's over the bar. How on earth are Unai Emery's men not 2-0 up?
They've got to be there. That's such a good opportunity there for Aston Villa. And in an ideal world, maybe Tielemans rolling that to Watkins, and Watkins would have buried it. But at the same time, it was Watkins with the great run that gave Villa this chance. Tielemans, I mean, you have to say it's a good save from Leno as well, because Tielemans is doing his best to try and play that away from the Fulham keeper. But sort of David De Gea-esque gets that foot out and makes a save. Yeah,
I almost feel like he's got to try and maybe lift it over that leg just a little bit. But credit's got to be given to Bernd Leno. It is a very, very good save, and good defending as well from Tim Ream to get back at the Belgian international. But it is a corner for Villa at the end of this first half. It's swung in, and it's headed just over the bar. Referee Lewis Smith gives a corner. I believe it's Pau Torres who got his head on the ball, or in fact it was Clement Longley, judging by his exacerbations on camera. A wonderful ball in, and it was both Watkins and Longley challenging for that ball. Really nice corner, and another opportunity for that ball to be swung in once again by Douglas Luiz. Raises his left arm. This will surely be the last action of the first half. Corner whipped in by the Brazilian. Watkins is there, blocked by Tim Ream, and into the hands of Bernd Leno. And you'd assume once the German kicks it, in fact doesn't get a chance, Lewis Smith blows for half time. So despite the fact that there's been 3 goals in this first half, only one of them has stood, and that's been for Villa. So at half time it's Fulham 0, Villa 1.